welcome to WRPB and WRP Studios. You know how I feel about kids, and I think we've kind of lost the way we bring up kids. I remember being a kid, not feeling well. Mom would come home with a coloring book, and she'd sit with me and color. I had my stuffed animal, okay? With me is Cindy from Living, Loving, Learning.
Yes.
Okay. I grew up old school. Obviously, we had much better music then, if nothing else. But you have a bunch of stuff on the table that are things that were in my normal day back then. So what is Living, Loving, Learning?
Okay, well, I have the most wonderful children's books and educational toys. I'm a brand partner with PaperPie and an educational services representative with PaperPie Learning. So I work with families and with homeschool groups, preschools, K-12 schools, libraries, to try to get books and educational materials into the hands of kids.
Okay, so obviously I see a bear, and we were just talking, you have an annual event?
Yes, in September every year we do the Cuddle Bear drive. So there's a book called Cuddle Bear and a little bear that goes with it. And it can be any organization, but usually I do like a pediatric hospital, so that people can donate these. They donate $25. Each $25 then gives a book and a bear to go to the organization so that they can share it with kids, especially kids that are going through something traumatic at the time.
So 10,
might need
so
something
10
to
people
hug.
who buy it, the thing gets $10, right?
I'm sorry?
If 10 people buy, then you donate $10.
Yes, and 10 bears.
Right.
And once we do that, for every $250, we get an extra $125 worth of bears. So there's a 50% match.
Wow, very
So
cool.
the company that I work with does that. So
Okay, so
we get extra to our community.
Cuddle Bear, so that, I guess, their bear, right?
Yes.
They all look like that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sorry, guys. I have to see what the bear feels like. Because that's so important, because people go to, like, festivals, and the bear doesn't feel, whatever stuffed animal doesn't feel like this.
Right.
Okay? Because remember, you're giving this to a kid who's going to hold it and squeeze it, and you want it to be soft, and I don't know if you can see it, but me, 66-year-old baby, is squeezing it. And can I see the book for a second?
Yes.
So you're going to take that. Stay. And Cuddle Bear book, I guess it's a children's book.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see, it's written with a lot of color and a lot of pictures. And the reason I bring that up is because, moreover, the book that you have, which I'll put up here for a minute, you have another book.
Yes, this is one that's for sale. This one is actually for parents. Most of our books are for children, but this one is actually written by a children's author. Her name's Sally Rippon. She's from Australia. And it's all about her experience with her youngest child who had ADHD, and just her experience learning about that and figuring out why he was having so much trouble learning, why he was having so much struggles at school when his older siblings had never had that. So I'm partway through it right now. It's one of our newest releases, but it's very interesting, and it's really good from a parent's perspective to see what they're experiencing, how they're feeling about it, and what their frustration, and actually changed the way that she wrote her books. So we have some that she's written now that were made with children with ADHD and dyslexia in mind.
Okay, so if you look at this book, and look at this book, and the pictures, everything that has to do with kids has some amazing colors in it.
Yes.
Okay? Now, when you talk about ADHD, I have my own philosophy, because I have ADHD. And my poor mom, it was the same thing in school when she would go. It would be, your son's a good student, but he can't focus. Okay? And ADHD doesn't go away. Okay, so now I just signed up to do, it's called leadership. So it's 10 months, one Thursday a month. And I'm like biting my tongue. I haven't started yet, because I have to spend all day with a group in a bus and going from place to place. And it's very hard when you have ADHD. Doesn't mean it's not a handicap. It just needs to be handled differently.
Right.
Is that what it kind of says in the book?
Yeah, that the mind just works differently. It doesn't mean that they're any more or less. It's just different. We
Okay.
process information differently.
So why did you decide to do this kind of stuff?
Well, when my oldest, who's now 15, was a baby, one of my mom's friends, who was a teacher, had given us a book called That's Not My Puppy.
Okay.
And it's a whole series of books, and we absolutely fell in love. I was a teacher, too, and I ended up buying these books for my classroom, my kids. I was a very, very, very good customer. And finally they said, why don't you just do this? And so at that point, I was home with my 3 kids. I wasn't teaching anymore. I was a stay-at-home mom, and this has been a perfect fit for me. That I love it. I love the books. I believe in the product, and we have like science kits and things now as well.
And that also has, and look at this, the labels, and what's inside. It also has a million colors.
Yes.
Is one reason to attract, to keep the kid's mind focused and attracted to what it is?
Absolutely.
I mean, you have kids, so obviously, if you're doing this, your kids play with this stuff.
Yes.
Just a guess. They
Yes.
probably don't read this book.
No, that one's for me.
But do you find that it helps them with attention? And do your kids have ADHD?
They do not.
Okay.
But when I was a teacher, I had
Had
children in my
kids, yeah.
classroom, so to working with them. So it was nice to see in this one from a parent's perspective.
All right, so you read this book.
Mhm.
Okay. Does any of this strike a chord from when you were teaching?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Yes.
So what are some of the things that we're kind of learning from a book like this?
To appreciate the child's perspective more and their frustration.
Okay.
To understand why, maybe, especially with dyslexia, why they get to the point where they don't want to read. And the importance of finding books that do appeal to them, and to make it, it's the author Kate DiCamillo has a famous quote, to paraphrase it, was that reading should be offered as a gift to children. It shouldn't be a chore.
Right.
So to make sure that that's appealing to children of all different learning styles and of all ages and all abilities, and so it's
Oh.
important to find what they want.
When I was growing up, I still had the ADHD, and I couldn't read a book. I just didn't have the patience or whatever. And I remember the summer project for over the summer was to read a biography or autobiography and write a report. Well, surely that wasn't going to happen because that's how we are when we have this. So when I got back, I knew a little bit about baseball and about Mickey Mantle. That's how old I am. And I wrote a whole essay about Mickey Mantle almost like it came from a book. And I got a B+ for it. So I was really quite impressed with how I could fake it and make it, which was really kind of interesting. But we were talking about, things that kept my attention, such as coloring, okay? And my mom, there's a thing called a jumble, where you have a bunch of mixed up. My mom was great at it. And she made me do it because it made me focus. I don't know that I had dyslexia because I just don't think that was my thing. I just did something about reading. My mind was always somewhere else. Okay? The stuff like the art stuff, you have it for your kids?
Yes, yeah, my daughter, she's 7, she has one of these, and she absolutely loves it. There's a little booklet inside there that it even has some information about art history, so like cave paintings, the illuminated manuscripts,
Really?
some color theory in there, yeah, and there's actually little watercolors that you can use and projects for the kids to do. So they're learning and they're doing at the same time.
And they're keeping it out of your hair.
Exactly. And it doesn't require batteries.
Right. So how old are your kids?
15, 7, and 5.
Okay. When does someone get kids involved with this stuff? What age, in your opinion, is an age to get kids involved?
Birth. We have books from birth all the way up through teenagers.
Really?
Yes. And the black and white books, because when they're first born, they can't perceive colors. They need that high contrast. So we have books that appeal to that so the kids can see it.
Oh, I see. I didn't know
And then
that.
it grows all the way with them.
35 years ago, when my daughter was born, I don't even think we thought about those days. Times change constantly. Do you limit the TV time for your kids and the computer time?
Yeah, I mean, it changes the way their brains are wired. So this kind of stuff, and we have, like you were talking about, the activity books.
Right.
All kinds of those. They're called wipe clean books, the dry erase markers, so you can wipe it off and do it again. That helps with pen control, with their writing abilities, because when kids aren't coloring, when they're doing this on a screen to color, it's not the same thing. They're not building up the strength in their hands and their arms to be able to write.
And it's interesting because we don't think about it. And one of the reasons parents don't think about it is because they're too busy, the parents are too busy on their phone, not thinking, hey, I'm going to give my kid a phone, that'll shut them up. Okay, but that's not a blessing, it's really a curse. The internet is a blessing and a curse, we always say that. What other kind of products do you have that you sell?
There's all kinds of science kits. There's one called a Squishy Human Body, where they can actually take the body apart into the different organs and put it back together.
We just advocate it's not a real body.
Not a real body,
All
no.
right, just saying.
Learning wrap-ups, it's kind of like flashcards, but it's self-checking. They can do it themselves to work
cool.
on like basic facts, like math, states and capitals, those kinds of things.
It's funny because as we get older, a lot of the things that we learn are not in our minds anymore because we're kind of put in a different direction. And honestly, the facts don't change. Most of the stuff you learn in school, you don't use. But the stuff that you use, you really need. Mm-hmm. And that's where we have the divide. Because kids will see things that they learned in school and say, I don't need that. I have a cell phone. I have a calculator. We didn't have calculators. But then you go somewhere and it's like, all right, well, how much, kids don't think past their nose.
Right.
Okay? You're gonna go to a restaurant and have to give a tip, and it kind of comes natural as you get older. But they're like, well, let me pull out my phone, and it's like, it's easy because it's simple. If you're giving 20%, it's simple math.
Yes.
But they don't even know simple math anymore. Let's face it, they don't even learn cursive. Okay, so we
have a book for that.
What?
I said I have a book for that. I do.
We don't want them to learn cursive because then we can't write things that they don't understand. So what ages do this stuff go to? You have a 50-year-old that still does some of the stuff?
Some of it, like we have graphic novels that have classics like the Odyssey and Macbeth and
wow.
Hamlet, so it kind of makes those kind of things a little less dry, more accessible, and a little more fun to read.
Okay, look, I'm 66 and I'm looking at this art thing. I'm saying, I could probably enjoy that.
Yeah.
And I'm not even good at that. But because I didn't color inside the lines anyway, But I remember sitting with my mom with an activity book and doing that. And if you look today, there are activity books that are puzzles, and some of them are mystery puzzles. Who's done it? And I'm really good at those because I did them.
Right.
And they didn't bore me because they were short. You talk about ADHD. So my brother, who doesn't have it, he would get a Superman comic book and read it from beginning to end. Small. I would look for Jughead jokes because it was only 1 or 2 pages, and then the next story, the next story. I can read a book that has chapters that are 1 or 2 pages, but I can't read anything long.
But you're still reading. That's the important part.
Yeah, it's amazing I know how to read. It's amazing that I still care to read at all. It's so important to read. And kids don't know that, and parents don't push it anymore because we had a World Book encyclopedia. We had to look stuff up. Mm-hmm. Okay? When you went to the library, we had a card catalog. It took 4 hours to find the book you wanted, and then 2 hours to read it. We had it so much better. And what's really cool is what you do really brings the kids back to a better time, in my opinion. Okay? Plus, you mentioned, the phone doesn't give their hands we were out playing and doing stuff, and that's so important. How do people find you? Do you have a Facebook?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I do parties on Facebook. I have one tonight, so I can connect with people here locally and also throughout the United States.
All right, so party meaning like a Pampered Chef type party?
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, people can come. They can invite their friends from all over, so you're not limited to just here. I'm also at the Hobestown Farmers Market the first and third Thursday and Saturday of each month.
Is that what no, it's every week, right?
They are, but I'm only there the first and third Thursday and Saturday. I have story time on the farm.
I don't want to overwork you.
Right. So come out at 9:30, and I read a book. We do an activity.
Oh, do you?
So, yeah. So we do story time out there, and then I have my book set up. I had last weekend. Some of the kids are like, "Oh, this is like the book fair at school." Yeah, it is. But their parents are there, so they can shop together, and so it's a whole lot of fun.
Do you do the party today? Is it done? It's done online. Is it an hour long? How long is it?
Yeah, roughly an hour. Like it'll start at 8 o'clock, and then different posts come up, and then I'll be live for part of it, showing off our latest titles and giving some reading tips and things to help.
How do people get to it? Is it on Facebook?
This one's a private party.
Okay.
So you'd be friends with the host. But if you were interested in doing something like that, then you get host rewards for it. You get free and half price books.
Okay. So so basically, if I was going to hop on it and my friend Mary wanted to be on it, can I give her the link? Is
Yeah.
that how it works?
Absolutely.
Interesting. Okay. So if they look for you on Facebook, what like on Facebook, how would they find you?
I'm Living, Loving, Learning with Cindy Landefeld.
Okay. And it's on the screen anyway, guys. Write it down. Check her out. If you have kids, I can't express how important it is to get your kids to do something else other than being on the phone or playing a game on the computer. With that, everybody, have a great day. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Thank you.